Yes, guys, redraft time. I'm going to go back and do the 2023 draft, have a look at what the list was originally on the night of the draft, and then try to kind of redraft it based on what we've seen this season. I've done a couple of these on my Instagram as just graphics, and they're pretty popular. They definitely cause a bit of discussion, a little bit of division, of course, but it's just an opinion thing. I think the way that I want to do it is I can have those Instagram graphics, and then it's a little bit of a way to sort of explain what I'm doing and my kind of thought process behind it. People ask in the comments and that sort of thing. So I'm not going to do it solely based on performance here. So don't think it's kind of like, oh, this guy's played better over the preliminary couple of seasons that we've had. It's going to also be about how I would have actually drafted it and how I would still draft it. So there's still a degree of projecting going on there. It's not just performances put down. So keep that in mind. And of course, like if you like this sort of content, it's not what I usually do. So let me know in the comments and, let me know by liking and watching and that sort of thing. So I'll keep doing it if you like it. And if you don't like it, I probably won't do this sort of content. So let me know. We'll get into it. So I'll bring up the graphic here. So this is the 2023 draft as it was on the night. Harley Reid obviously goes 1. It was a pretty big, kind of seen as a pretty spectacular draft just because Harley Reid was that god-like player across that 2023 season. It was like he was going to be the number 1 pick from the get-go. And I think that's kind of rare in these, last few drafts. I think we've always had a little bit of a race to the number 1 pick. This one wasn't like that at all. Harley Reid was the clear guy. Colby McKercher was second. He was racking up huge numbers for Tassie and the Allies. And this was a big year for the Allies. Remember back, they had Jed Walter, McKercher, they had Riley Sanders in there as well, Ethan Reed, these sorts of players. So they actually won the national champs that year, the Allies. A lot of representation from them. McKercher was sort of that rangy sort of inside midfielder, big accumulator. He'd rack up regular games of 30-plus disposals. He had that run and that beautiful kicking action that I think drew clubs to him. Jed Walter at pick 3. We all know what he can do as that sort of big bull contested forward. Zane Dersmer, I feel, was that big sort of projection pick. He promised a lot at this age as that, hybrid type forward, 190 centimeters. He was either going to be that third tall forward or that big bodied midfielder, that sort of, dusty, prototypical, strong, powerful mid. Hasn't shown that just yet, and that may be reflected in the redraft, but, still potential there to be a good player. Nick Watson, the mercurial small forward. Riley Sanders is that sort of generic arc-to-arc type midfielder, accumulator type midfielder, probably one of the best of that type in the class. Caleb Windsor was definitely a projection type pick, someone that Melbourne saw as having elite skills with his agility and his burst, someone that could go into the midfield in coming seasons, but probably didn't have everything that he was sort of putting down. He was more of an outside player, someone that could project to go into the midfield. Dan Curtin is that hybrid tall defender / forward. He was more of a defender at this age. Ethan Reed, a key position forward, and Nate Caddy is that hybrid forward. So a lot of high upside players with some generic sort of midfielders in between. And then obviously there was a lot of really gun picks a little bit further back. So I'll bring up my redraft here in stages. So going here with the number 1 pick, the original pick, of course, was Harley Reid. I'm staying true here. I'm staying with Harley. I still think overall he has the biggest potential to be the best player in this draft. Potentially the best player in the last 5 drafts, if you ask me. He's got everything. He's got pace. He's got power. He has footballing ability. He has goal sense. Maybe at the moment he looks a little bit unfit, if I'm honest. It feels like there's a lack of work rate there at the moment that is probably coming from his fitness. But I still do think you see signs of it even in the bad form at the moment when he's on the ball. He just looks a class above. The strength is there in your first couple of seasons to be doing what he did when he pushed Petrarca and pushed Oliver away. Last season was incredible. Some of the goals that he's kicked, some of the moments that he's had. With the West Coast fans, I think if he stays at the club, definitely will be remembered forever. And he's definitely someone that can turn that club around. He just probably needs, right now, you just feel for him. You feel that he needs to be in a better team. And if he was, he's still the clear number 1 pick for me. And if you had this draft tomorrow, that is who I would be selecting with the number 1 pick. With a second overall pick, which was the Kangaroos, they selected midfielder Colby McKercher. Now, this is my first change here. And I've gone with the Kangaroos selecting the overall pick 31 in this draft, Logan Morris. Wouldn't the Kangaroos love to have a player like Logan Morris at the moment? Drafted as a probably a third tall, that sort of hybrid tall forward. I think he's around 191, 192 centimeters, but he's a competitive beast in the air. He's super at ground level. He really has the agility of a ground level player. You think about those hybrid forwards like Gunston, like Fritsch. He's got that sort of movement in him, kicks big goals for Brisbane. He was a huge part of the reason why they won the premiership as that sort of assisting forward to Hipwood and Danaher. I think by the end of this season, and you're already starting to see it, he's becoming the main focal point inside forward 50 for Brisbane. They love their smalls in Bailey and Rayner. But of the talls, I feel like Morris is the most dominant just because of his aerial competitiveness and his work rate. I love these types of forwards. I just love the guys that sort of play as a little bit of both, like they have that hybridness to them. They have that ground level ability and can play in the air. I would absolutely love Logan Morris to be at the Kangaroos. And I think it probably shows with these drafts that North Melbourne didn't get creative enough with taking tall players in some of these drafts when they could. I know there's an idea that you have to take the best available talent or whatever that means, but Sheasel, Wardlaw, McKercher, Dersma, pretty much all midfielders across those two drafts where they took 4 players. Could have got a little bit more creative, I feel. And now you're probably seeing that overdrafting of midfielders actually hurting some of those players and hurting their performances. So we'll go to number 3, and this is a big one. This is a big climb, probably the biggest climb overall, or perhaps that's even actually later on. So the next one is Joel Frazier to the Gold Coast Suns. Now, again, would Gold Coast have taken Joel Frazier? No way, because they had academy-tied picks anyway. They were always going to be taking Jed Walter with this pick, but whenever the bid came, but we're just basically doing this on a ranking of where I'm putting those players now. If I had a crack at this draft tomorrow, I'm definitely taking Joel Frazier in the top 5 of this draft. I've gone with 3. Just when you think about the projection of this guy, what he started as, this hybrid defender, really, a running defender off the back half with plenty of athleticism. He's got elite endurance. He runs a sub 6-minute 2K time trial. So he's got that. He's very tall at 190 centimeters. So he's got aerial ability, and he just looks like he glides across the field. Even at AFL level, he just looks so hard to keep up with. Reminds me a little bit of like a Finn Callahan. People have called him Mini Bont. I think, he doesn't have the inside skills of those players at the moment. He still needs to work on some of that in-tight stuff, the little handballs, the creativity, some of his cleanliness around the ball. Sometimes you can tell that he's used to playing outside roles, and that's probably why he did slip in the draft a little bit. But what he's putting together now, the improvement that he's shown over these last couple of years has been absolutely profound. So going from pick 45 to 3, incredible rise for Joel Frazier, incredible drafting by the Western Bulldogs as well. And then at 4, I have North Melbourne selecting Connor O'Sullivan, currently at the Geelong Cats. So the original pick here was Zane Dersma as a sort of mid-forward type player, more of a midfielder. I sort of see Zane Dersma, but imagine if North had have taken at pick 2 Logan Morris as a key position forward, and pick 4 a 200 centimetre key defender in Connor O'Sullivan. So O'Sullivan was initially taken by the Cats at pick 11. I just think this guy has absolutely everything. I even struggled a little bit when I was trying to get the numbers right here, not to put him higher, just because of the projection element of it. 200 centimetres. He runs like Joel Frazier said, like when he's running off the back of stoppage, when he's intercepting, he just hurts you so bad. He runs away from those unathletic types that can't keep up with him. He's so good in the air. He's so competitive. He's clean. Yeah, he can sometimes make some mistakes by foot. He's not the best field kick in the competition by any means, but given the athleticism and all of those traits, the fact that you can probably in the future bring him a little bit higher up the ground, play a bit of forward time. He's a major swing man. And look at a team like Hawthorn, sort of how modular they are with their tools, like Sicily, Weddle, these types of players that are playing between the forward line and defence. Connor O'Sullivan's another one that can do that. He's not a stay-at-home tall. He can pretty much play all over the ground. You could probably play him as a tall winger even. So unbelievably versatile, and I think he would be a steal even at pick 4, so the Cats got a beauty there. Then at number 5, we've got the original pick was Nick Watson to the Hawks, and I think if they had their time over again, they'd probably just take Nick Watson again. He's been unbelievable. I've gone for more of a pure ranking here and a little bit looking at upside as well. So I've gone for Nate Caddy. His original pick was pick 10 to the Bombers, got him climbing a little bit here. I think people will come at me a little bit for this because Nate Caddy, he plays for Essendon. There's a little bit of inconsistency in performance, I think, because of the fact that he's playing with Essendon, who are a weaker team. They haven't played finals. Compared to someone like a Logan Morris, who went back at pick 31, he was a bit of a later pick, but he's sort of climbed above Nate Caddy, and I think that's kind of a stick to beat Nate Caddy with sometimes. But you got to remember, Morris is walking into this well-oiled machine, this unbelievable offense that is the Brisbane Lions, and I think Caddy suffers from that. But everything I see from Caddy, every contest that he hits is with full velocity. I think he's super competitive in the air. He's unbelievable at ground level, and he's a hype player, isn't he? When the ball comes in his area, you do think that something magical is going to happen. I look at how he and Isaac Kako have sort of revolutionised that Essendon forward line. I think it's brilliant, and I still think in the next 2, 3, 4 years, Caddy's going to be seen as one of the best key position forwards and best hybrid forwards in the competition. The Western Bulldogs had pick 6, originally taking Riley Sanders. Again, nothing that Riley Sanders has really done wrong here. It's probably just the position. He's a generic mid, isn't he? He's not really going to be able to play any other position. There's not as much upside. I think he'll turn into a good accumulating midfielder, but probably don't see the ceiling as high as some other players. I have gone here for the original pick 18, which was Darcy Wilson. Athleticism absolutely brimming with this guy. He's got super speed, he's got super endurance, and he's got amazing athleticism and aerial ability as well. He takes those big marks running up the wing. He's a good outlet from defense. Really good when he drops inside forward 50 as well, and he takes those contested marks. He gets a shorter matchup, and he can really hurt the opposition there. But I would like to see Darcy Wilson in the future, and I think this is where the improvement can come. If he goes into the midfield, he improves some of that in-tight stuff, that physicality on the inside, and becomes a premium on baller for St Kilda. They've got players like Nasiah Wangadeen-Millerer, Matthias Philippou, and then Wilson that have one of the most athletically diverse midfields in the competition. So I think he's an absolute star and was an absolute steal for the Saints at pick 18. Then you've got pick 7, which was originally Caleb Windsor. I have gone for Nick Watson here. So just dropped him back. We kind of know what Nick Watson can do. He's a mercurial small forward. He's one of the cleanest players in that position that I've seen. I think the movement's incredible, and he just hits the ball at such pace. And he's a real important part to the modern game with those teams favouring having those little contest winners inside forward 50. So not much more to be said about Nick Watson. He's around the mark where he was picked, really. A specialist position, and the Hawks went after the guy that they wanted. Next is 8, and I've stayed here with Dan Curtin, the original pick 8. I think there's a lot that we haven't seen from Dan Curtin, and people will probably say, yeah, what has Curtin done? He's really only just got into that Adelaide side, but we know 197 centimetres, those size players tend to take a little bit more time. And he hasn't taken that long, really. He's only had one season where he's really been in and out of the side. Then you come to 2025, he's really starting to forge himself into that team. And he looks like a real flexible option, someone that can play across the half-back line and then push forward later in games, hit the scoreboard, that sort of thing. So again, a lot of athleticism from Curtin, and one that I would stay with there at pick 8. At pick 9, I have gone for the original pick 7, which was Caleb Windsor. This is nothing against Ethan Reid, who was the pick 9. I just probably haven't seen enough from Ethan Reid. He's a big key position forward, playing in that Gold Coast forward line. He has played a bit of footy this year. It's probably a symptom of him playing for the Gold Coast, me not really getting to see as many of their games. But Caleb Windsor, I think he was a rightful pick 7 where he was taken from Melbourne anyway, just about. So his first year, obviously, playing on that sort of wing, playing a very outside role, just a link player, really. We didn't really get to see all of that, all of those traits. He goes into the half-back line now, and you get to see it a little bit more. He uses that step quite a bit, opens up the field, and then, kickstarts into the middle of the ground. And I think before he got injured this season, he was tracking really, really nicely. But I think you'll really see it in a couple of years when he goes into the midfield. You get to see all of those traits at their upper end. And that's why I've put him so high. I just think he's the highest midfield upside in this draft. And then with the last pick inside the top 10, Nate Caddy, the original pick, who's higher up my list, I've gone with Lawson Humphreys, the original pick 63. A crazy pick from the Cats, pulled out of the Waffle reserves, I think it was. He looks unbelievable. He's got great speed. He's got great endurance. He's got overhead ability. He kicks the footy really well. He's got good decision making. Just a miss from every other club that passed him up in the top 63 picks. He's done awesome and is really propelling Geelong to more finals, more grand finals, like the club always does. Now, some of the other ones that are worth considering and talking about here, Colby McKercher goes out as that pick 2. just don't really know where McKerch is at the moment. Lacking physicality, I think, lacking confidence. There's a lot going on there. I think he was really good off the half back line in his first year. But now that they've tried to get him up the ground, what is it a little bit too quick that they're moving him into those more difficult positions, perhaps? But definitely doesn't look like the player that was drafted. And there's players that have unfortunately gone ahead of him and look a little bit better. Dersma, it's more just haven't really seen him play enough. I think he doesn't look sort of dexterous enough when he goes into the midfield and doesn't have those intricate little, balls in there, the movements. He looks a little bit cumbersome sometimes playing in the midfield. And then when he goes forward, he probably doesn't look physical enough to be an aerial threat as well from what we've seen. So he kind of slips out of the top 10. Walter's really harsh, the original pick 3. I think he hasn't done a lot wrong. I probably am a person who prefers those hybridy types. I'd rather a Morris or a Caddy over that sort of gorilla forward. Lack of agility, I think it was really shown up in that game the other night in the Q clash, particularly for Jed Walter. The movement wasn't there. He is a beast, though, and you definitely want one of these guys in your team. He was stiff to miss. Riley Sanders has been pretty good for the Western Bulldogs. Couldn't really fault him, but he hasn't played a lot of footy, and to me, probably doesn't look as high upside, as I mentioned, as those other guys. Ethan Reed, probably similar to Jed Walter, really. Haven't seen as much of him. You've got pick 12, Phoenix Gothard. We haven't seen him really at AFL level, but I do like him as a player. Thulstrup was pick 13. I wanted to mention Taylor Goad, who was pick 20 in this draft. I think he's tracking really well from a developmental point of view in the North VFL side. He looks really competitive when he comes up against Sherry when they play the intra-clubs and that sort of thing. I think he could be a steal at this pick, and I kind of hope North Melbourne can hang on to him because I reckon some of the South Australian clubs will be looking closely at Taylor Goad, where he's from. I reckon Moyer's a good discussion in this draft too. Ashton Moyer was one that was considered in that top 10 group earlier in the season. And I think this always happens in drafts where someone slides down the board and then the team thinks they're getting a bargain when they pick him up later in the draft, and fans think they're getting a bargain because he was rated higher, but he's probably showing that he just doesn't have maybe it is the competitiveness, the physicality to play at the level, and hasn't really found that yet. Moyer, you'd probably would have hoped for more from him by now. Sean Manor, pick 36, an absolute steal. I couldn't fit him into the top 10 on sort of projecting, but a great player. Harvey Thomas, pick 59, is an absolute steal by the Giants. Garcia at 50 for the Saints. Cal Shadir, 56, and Archie Roberts at 54 are all really good players. Cal Shadir, particularly there at 56, an absolute steal, but I couldn't fit him in the top 10. Once again, guys, that's kind of wrapping things up there for that 2023 draft crop. Let me know if you had any thoughts on that. Everyone has a different theory on this. Let me know if you agree in the comments below. Let me know if you like this kind of content and I can do a bit more of it. And as usual, I'll see you guys in the next one.